Okay, so this is it. It's crypto's 1934 moment, the point where longevity of our industry is decided. And I don't get much time to tell you who we are and what we believe. So instead of doing what all great speakers do, talking about the Blockworks Token Transparency Framework, talking about Blockworks product offerings, talking about who I am and what I do, we're going to talk about what Blockworks believes, what I believe, and how I believe MetaDAO is the purest version of that. So, in the history of the world, only a few generations have been gifted and given the privilege and an honor to reinvent and renew the industry of finance. And what we're going to be talking about today is how we get there. In 1934, this was the biggest moment that has laid the ground and pipe work for the entire financial industry today. And the next part of this is talking about the past. To understand how we get to the 1934 moment for digital assets, we need to explore what happened before 1934. And when you look at that space, two things really occur: speculation and selling to insiders. And the result of these two things is that you're basically sailing without a map at sea. The waters are rough, there's no stars to guide you, and people are getting hurt. And so the question is, how do you fix that? And the way that the Securities and Exchange Act fixed that in 1934 was by standardizing, auditing, ongoing disclosures enforced by the agency. Additionally, securities analysis, such as fundamentals analysis, was really built off of this idea and concept. And that's really important to understand as we move forward to what is next for our industry. In 1934, all of that regulation was actually built on a pattern. And it's a pattern that's been forgotten because it's been 100 years since it's taken place. And that pattern goes as innovation, the market innovates. Secondly, it self-regulates. And then finally, state formalization for those rules. Okay, let's put it into practice and let's really prove this out for you. How does this work? Where has it been? What does it look like? First off, in 1790, you have the innovation, stock and bond markets. Then in 1817, the self-regulation for the New York Stock Exchange, the first SRO that ever existed. And then lastly, you have the 1934 Exchange Act. Now, I don't need to go through all of these because the point is that it demonstrates the innovation, the self-regulation, and the state formalization of those rules. So you have to ask, where are we today and why does it matter? Stablecoins already passed this, but largely what hasn't passed this are tokens. And they haven't passed it in multiple ways. There was no self-disclosure standard, and there was no way to really understand what you own. You know, you go and own a stock, and you know you have a right to that business. But when you own a digital asset, you don't know what you own unless you're participating in MetaDAO. So the next part of this is, why now? Why does all of this need to happen today? Well, the reason that we're standing in this room, the reason that I'm standing in front of you, is because the questions that we're asking have changed. They've gone from narrative focused to ownership and fundamental focus. And that's only happened over the last 2 years in digital assets. And so what we see is someone over here that I don't think is present anymore asked a question about why there are so little liquid funds in this industry today. And the reason for that gap is because there's a difficulty discovering and there's a difficulty distributing information. The discovery, what does that mean? What does it entail? MetaDAO does something great. It provides really clear ownership claims on the underlying asset. The reason that Thea, Coliseum, and others are interested in this is because of that. Additionally, it distributes information on the digital asset very well. It's all on chain, it's all publicly viewable on the forum, but that's just MetaDAO. That's not the whole industry. And what we're trying to do here is change that and reinvent it and renew it to something that we can be proud of. And so how we actually invest today is similar to the pre-1934 Securities Exchange Act. It relies on narrative-based manufacturer growth, dumping on the followers, and no understanding of usage or ownership. And it's not even that that's bad, it's awful. It's like, how did we even accept this standard? How did we build it? We were supposed to build the financial industry outside of traditional markets and do it better and do it on our own. But the result was we largely came up short. And we came up short in these key areas. And that's because a token doesn't function similarly to equity or debt. It does all of those things. And that's why MetaDAO is important. So what piece is MetaDAO building and what piece is Blockworks building? And how do they come together? MetaDAO is building the ownership side. What are the guarantees? What are the rights? What are the claims? Blockworks is building the transparency side. What to disclose, how to disclose it, what's standardizable across many different investments. And how does this relate back to the 1934 Securities and Exchange Act? Well, when you go and look at what's in that act, it's largely focused on disclosures and ownership rights. And you pair these two new innovations together, you start to get a new way to invest. And in 5 years' time, 5 to 3 years, this is how people are going to invest. And it's going to focus on a couple things: the durability, the network effects of the project, the multiple, what's priced in, and then what you actually own. And so I think oftentimes we get in these rooms and we see something like MetaDAO and we think it's the whole world, but there's so much work left to be done. And so that's what the purest vision and why MetaDAO, I believe, represents that. At Blockworks, we have an internal motto, which is that the best way to affect change is to lead it. And the only way to lead it is to build different. And I believe we're both doing that together. So summing it up into key takeaways, why does this matter? Well, today, we're trying to build something different, something people might not believe in outside of this room. And we're doing that based on past precedent. That's why it's right. And so what are we building towards? We're building towards ownership that are guarantees. We're building towards this pattern of innovation, self-regulation, and state formalization of the rules. We're building towards defining economic rights at the legislative level with the Clarity Act. And then lastly, a way to value these tokens in a manner that is replicatable across every single digital asset. All in all, that's what I have to present to you today. I hope you feel the same way as I do about the passion in this room and what it takes to actually create this vision. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen the next year. This is a multi-year plan, and it's just starting. Thank you.